The Kremlin has officially accused Ukraine and personally Volodymyr Zelensky of attempting and trying to eliminate the deputy chief of the main intelligence directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Volodymyr Alekseyev. The same person shot from behind in the stairwell on February 6th. And right after that, Moscow announced that no positive outcome should be expected amid the ongoing negotiations between Ukraine and Russia in Abu Dhabi. Moscow officially stated that the war will continue in the coming months, even if some progress is made in the negotiations. At the same time, it became known that Ukraine is demanding to include in the peace agreement a provision that Russia commits not to attempt to seize Odessa. And these are not all the details of the negotiations in Abu Dhabi, but here is the news that has once again stirred up Russia today. It's the attempted assassination of Russian General V. Alekseyev became famous together with Prigozhin during the mutiny in 2023, but a lot of very interesting details have surfaced about this Alekseyev. You might ask, how are the negotiations related to the attempted assassination of a Russian general? And as it turned out, these two stories are very closely connected. For one simple reason, there is already a theory that a third party was trying to disrupt the negotiation process in this way. But let's try to sort out this whole story and untangle this knot together. In this episode, I'm Alexei Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic, but first please subscribe, like, comment below, and join my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. So, on February 6th, the first deputy chief of the main intelligence directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, Lieutenant General Vladimir Alekseyev, was hospitalized in Moscow as a result of a gunshot wound. It became known that on February 6th there was an assassination attempt on the 64-year-old general in a residential building. It was officially stated that, quote, an as-yet unidentified person fired several shots at the man and then fled the scene. The victim was hospitalized in one of the city hospitals. A criminal case has been opened on charges of attempted murder and illegal possession of firearms. Alekseyev is in serious condition in intensive care. Looking ahead, I'll say that most likely the person who attempted it won't be found, and if they are, it will be a completely different person. That's how it is. Let me remind you that in June 2023, during Yevgeny Prigozhin's mutiny, Alekseyev, along with Deputy Defense Minister Yunusbek Yevkurov, was captured by Wagner private military company militants in Rostov-on-Don. Later, a video appeared where Prigozhin explains to the Defense Ministry generals that he wants to get the chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov and the head of the department Sergei Shoigu. Otherwise, he would march on Moscow. To this, with a smile on his face, Alekseyev responds to him, yes, take them. And a day before that, he recorded an address to the Wagner fighters in which he accused them of a coup d'etat and urged them to reconsider.
You're shelling civilians.
You are killing civilians. You just destroyed a bus full of people, and you had no conscience because of this. We came here, we want to get the chief of the General Staff and Shoigu. Until they show up, we are staying here, blocking the city of Rostov and heading to Moscow. Guys are dying because you are sending them to the front without ammunition, without any thought, without any plans, just old fools in charge.
What upsets me most is that for at least 3 days, or during a 5-hour holiday in Moscow,
where nothing major was happening.
Alekseyev has held the position of first deputy chief of the main intelligence directorate since 2011, and in 2017 he was awarded the title Hero of Russia. And this hero was almost shot in the entrance of his apartment building. But there's another interesting point. In 2016, Alekseyev was sanctioned by the United States for malicious actions in cyberspace due to his interference in the American elections and a cyber attack. Since 2019, this general has been under European Union sanctions as the person responsible for storing, transporting and using the poisonous substance Novichok. In March 2018 in Salisbury, the head of the main intelligence directorate, Igor Kostyukov, who led the Russian delegation at the Ukraine negotiations in Abu Dhabi, was also included in the same sanctions list. And here it's interesting that statements have appeared regarding this assassination attempt, claiming that some third party is behind it, not Russia or Ukraine, trying to disrupt the negotiations in this way. And I'll point out once again that Alekseyev is on one of the sanctions lists, the same one as Kostyukov. They are credited precisely with the story that they were plotting and even carrying it out. And now the head of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, has stated that supposedly Ukraine is behind the attempted assassination in Moscow of Lieutenant General Vladimir Alekseyev. And what a surprise. Minister Lavrov also accused Kyiv of trying to do what? To disrupt the peace talks in Ukraine in this way. Here is a further quote from Lavrov. This terrorist act once again confirmed the nationalism and the focus of the Zelensky regime on constant provocations, which in turn are aimed at disrupting the negotiation process and the regime, willing to do anything to assure its Western sponsors it won't fall behind the United States in their efforts to bring down. And here, Russia, in the best traditions, began to turn this whole story upside down. Why did I say a little earlier that it's unlikely they'll ever find the person who attempted to harm this Alekseyev? The context is important here. Volodymyr Zelensky recently said that during the latest negotiations in Abu Dhabi, the topic of implementing and monitoring a ceasefire in Ukraine was discussed. In the final communique of the meeting, which was released by Rustem Umerov, it was stated that the discussions were constructive and focused on ways to create conditions for achieving lasting peace. Here is the quote. Over the course of 2 days, the delegations held extensive discussions on the remaining unresolved issues, in particular, methods for implementing a ceasefire and monitoring the cessation of hostilities. The delegations agreed that they would inform their senior leadership and continue negotiations in the coming weeks. At the same time, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, said that the next rounds of negotiations would take place in America. According to him, Ukraine is ready for any working formats that will help bring peace closer and make it reliable and lasting. He says Russia must lose its desire to keep fighting. Quote, "It's important this war ends without Russia gaining any reward for its aggression. This is one of the key principles that restores and guarantees real security. I thank all the partners who support us in this." And after the assassination attempt on Moscow General Alekseyev, the Kremlin stated that even if there is a breakthrough in negotiations, we should not expect months of peace in the near future. The Russian side stated that working on a peace agreement on Ukraine will take at least a month and a half, even if the negotiations go favorably. And now a telegraph agency of the Soviet Union source stated, quote, "A very multifaceted and step-by-step work is underway. It's unlikely to be completed within a month, and only if all sides have the right attitude and are ready to immediately resolve fundamental differences. It will take at least a month and a half, and of course, in reality, it will take much longer." Ukraine seeks security guarantees for Odessa, specifically that Russia will not attempt to seize the city. This is crucial for Kyiv. But, as you remember, Vladimir Putin previously demanded that Kyiv withdraw the armed forces of Ukraine from the non-occupied part of Donbass in order to end the war. He repeated this demand at a meeting with United States President Donald Trump. In turn, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky directly stated that Kyiv will not give up the part of Donbass under its control under any circumstances. And now, according to the New York Times, Washington discussed with Kyiv, as a compromise, the deployment of neutral forces in Donbass and the withdrawal of Ukrainian and Russian troops. But Moscow rejected any such scenarios. The Kremlin stated that unless Ukrainian territories are ceded to Russia in negotiations, Moscow will keep trying to occupy them militarily. But Russia cannot simply withdraw from the negotiations, because then the United States of America might impose new sanctions. By the way, we'll talk about them in the next episode. But Russia can and has fabricated pretexts like an assassination attempt on a general more than once. Russia in general, and the Federal Security Service in particular, are known for their provocations, for how they stage these provocations and then claim that it was necessary to start entire wars and involve whole nations. So, there's really nothing surprising about it. I'll leave it there. Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, hit the bell, and like the episode. If you found this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this YouTube channel with any donation or subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. I appreciate any support. That's all for now. Take care, everyone. Bye.